Part 90. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 891. Chapter 891 Survival of the Fittest begins. Because the location where the boxes are scattered is not along the mainland. Instead, many of them slowly fell into the deep mountains and old forests. They had no choice but to break away from the current route and look for the targets they had just seen. It's best not to disperse at this time, because there are no weapons and supplies. If you disperse in this deep mountain forest, the final result may be to feed the wild beasts here and sleep here forever. It seems that the school of the Medicine God Association has no meaning in this regard. All leaders agree with this policy, so it is best for everyone to be mentally prepared and not think that their lives are important. No one will come looking for you for this. If you want to survive, you must stick together. There is strength in numbers. Zhang Xiaoxiao saw someone ready to make a move. They felt that the large army was moving too slowly now, so it was better for them to fight alone. If others found the silver boxes first, it would be a big disadvantage for them. Zhang Xiaoxiao said no, mainly because there was a big age gap between her and others. I have more actual experience than others. In this case, if I didn't get weapons and supply boxes, if I had already fallen apart internally, would I be able to survive in this mountain forest with my own strength? Zhang Xiaoxiao wondered how it was possible. This was not a place where special forces were trained. This was just a school within the Medicine God School. Even if you are faced with life and death elimination, you will not be able to survive solely on your own abilities. That's not making a movie. The lone hero. And she believes that every doctor is born with physical weaknesses. I owe my strong physique to Tao Zi, as well as having a husband who is keen on exercising every day. Also, their fight against unknown dangers and their thoughts of protecting their families have changed somewhat subtly. But it does not mean that these people are like this. Looking at how fragile each of them is, you can know that they are facing this kind of life and death challenge. The power of one person is really a drop in the bucket. Think Zhang Xiaoxiao is crazy and insists on showing his leadership skills? There is really no other way. Who would have thought that a new student registration would be so dangerous, and the bodyguards didn't even come with him? She asked her bodyguard to wait for her outside the school. But this happened on the first day today. She alone is unable to defeat four palms with only two fists. Besides, she had a very strong premonition because she remembered what the Medicine God Association once said about the Kunlun secret realm. She didn't know what was going on in the Kunlun secret realm because she hadn't had time to talk in detail about the secret realm with her 8 teachers. What is the situation? Now that she has encountered this kind of trial, she has a strong intuition that tells her that the Kunlun secret realm is probably closely related to this trial. No one can tell what strange sights may be seen in a moment. Some people hesitated, but some still left. The 3 boys looked at each other. Wu Yang, Haorugjiu, will you come with us? We are planning to form an alliance between the 3 of us. Out of the 8 people, 4 are boys and 4 are girls. If the 4 boys form an alliance and leave, they are the strongest individuals. This is understandable. There are only a few girls left. I understand that they don't want to carry this kind of burden. Bai Xiao looked like he had no strength to restrain a chicken. Looking at Fatty Xiao's figure, he knew that there was no chance of winning if he ran away. If he encountered a wild beast, he would only be attacked. There is also Lu Yun, who has always been silent, and does not seem to have much fighting ability. Zhang Xiaoxiao is only a little bit stronger in their minds. That's why we reserved the quota for inviting Zhang Xiaoxiao, and of course it was because of Zhang Xiaoxiao's reputation as the successor to the god of medicine. Several girls looked at Zhang Xiaoxiao and Wu Yang. They knew that the 3 of them would probably be left behind. Zhang Xiaoxiao, if a girl doesn't follow these boys and stay with them, this is a choice only a fool would make. Bai Xiao kept her mouth shut. She didn't want to drag Zhang Xiaoxiao down at this time. After all, Zhang Xiaoxiao had already helped them a lot. Just because Zhang Xiaoxiao saved him by the river this time, he could no longer drag Zhang Xiaoxiao down. Her physical condition and actual situation really have no choice. If you are really doing it for Zhang Xiaoxiao's best, you'd better not embarrass your friends. Xiao Yu and Lu Yun didn't say anything. Of course they knew that they would be the first to be left behind. The strong are willing to form an alliance, and the weak will inevitably be eliminated, especially this time when they are facing life and death. Suddenly, the survival laws of human beings suddenly turned into the survival of the fittest in the face of these things. It was only the second day, and people were already thinking about how to survive. I'll stay. Wu Yang was speechless. If Zhang Xiaoxiao followed him and the boys, he would have a high chance of surviving until the end. However, the woman in front of me chose to stay with these three women. He is too soft-hearted. He heard his grandfather say that every test for new students to enter the school is actually not that difficult and will not be life-threatening. But once they encounter a once-in-a-100-year life and death disaster, they will have to ask for their own blessings. Because this is not a game or a joke, people will really die. The one who can live to the end. Only then will he become the strongest, and will also become a talent that is rare to see in 100 years in the School of Medicine God Association. All will be included as president-level teachers and professors. Obviously, he was not very lucky this time. It was just an act of anger, and he actually encountered a life and death disaster that only happened once in a century. Let him leave with these boys too? Suddenly he was a little unsure, because the emotional understanding he and Zhang Xiaoxiao Baixiao had developed together along the way was no joke. Although not much happened along the way, Zhang Xiaoxiao gave him the impression that he was very capable, calm in situations, and very talented in leadership. Can such a person die easily? He doesn't believe it. Besides, this man also has the aura of the god of medicine on his head. With this halo, I have a high chance of surviving. I have medicine on my body, and this person is a master of alchemy. If you step on herbs in the wild on the road, it shouldn't be a problem to just refine some to survive. Forget it, let's bet on the odds, and bet on the future. At least he is willing to become a true friend with this medicine god's successor. The important thing is that he is not a heartless person. He just faced such a danger. Instead of dragging Bai Xiao away and leaving him to face the black bear alone, he tried his best to save him. From this point of view, I have to be with this woman. Repaying kindness is the basic conscience of a person, no matter what the situation is. Grandpa said, make sure you look like a person and be a person. Does not violate his own principles as a human being and his purpose of treating illnesses and saving lives. He is a doctor. The doctor's standards are even different from those of other people. If it is only for his own selfish interests, then why should he come here? I'll stay too. The three boys looked at them like fools. Then let's go. Take care of yourself. Leave quickly. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 892. Chapter 892, Parting Ways. Wu Yang, why don't you leave? Bai Xiao was surprised that if Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't leave, she had already guessed that this might happen. But based on Wu Yang's proud and complacent attitude when she first met him, she knew that this man could not be with a weak group like them. Unexpectedly, the most impossible thing happened. I'm happy, but I'm not happy enough. Wu Yang really deserves a beating for looking like that. Zhang Xiaoxiao packed his luggage. The three boys probably had this idea for a long time, so they actually carried all the food away. In other words, people have already thought about it in advance and want to part ways with them. But they did a great job and didn't leave any food for them. Xiao suddenly realized that the food was not with them at all. Those bastards, they actually took away all our food, except for the fruits in my basin. Xiao Yu would really like to thank himself for his love of eating, if he hadn't just fought to save his life. Then he had no choice but to start carrying the bowl of fruit. This little thing may be gone. They took it with them. Now everyone packs their luggage lightly. If possible, don't bring it. You don't even need to bring a change of clothes. Survival is the most important thing in this situation. Just bring some food, water, and necessary medicine, life-saving weapons, everything else can be thrown away. Zhang Xiaoxiao began to organize his things. Throw it all away, I brought so many good things. Bai Xiao was a little frustrated. Which is more important, your life or your things? It's your choice. Zhang Xiaoxiao turned around and took out a lot of things. I still have a lot of potatoes, yams, and sweet potatoes in my bag. Although these are raw, I will give some of them to each of you. In this way, if we get separated, at least everyone will have food. These things. It's okay to eat it raw, but it doesn't taste good, but at least you can survive. Since we are all comrades in arms, when information is shared, of course it is material sharing. Besides, there are too many in his own space, and Zhang Xiaoxiao would not be able to bear it if these young girls really died here. I will definitely help them if I can, but they have to carry their own food, that's for sure. Everyone walked over silently and picked up yams, potatoes, and sweet potatoes from the ground. Everyone put a small pile in front of him into his backpack. When he put it in his backpack, he realized that it looked like a small pile on the ground, but it was still a lot when he put it in his backpack. I don't know how Zhang Xiaoxiao carried such a heavy thing on his back. Of course, many people looked at Zhang Xiaoxiao's backpack with suspicion. Zhang Xiaoxiao held up his backpack and gestured, and then they realized that Zhang Xiaoxiao's backpack was a mountaineering backpack. There is a zipper at the bottom. After opening the zipper, the backpack will become very large. Zhang Xiaoxiao must have packed a lot of things just like this, otherwise they would all doubt that Zhang Xiaoxiao had a Doraemon bag. Everything was packed up and everyone went into battle lightly. Everyone only carried a backpack. As for weapons, don't think about it now. Finally Wu Yang thought of a way. After all, he still carried a dagger with him. He didn't think much about it at the time. This dagger was a military thorn that he particularly liked. Normally, it is used as a collectible, but who would have thought that today it would become the only weapon? It's really ironic. Chop some branches. The two ends of the sharpened branches can be temporarily used as weapons, otherwise you won't even have anything decent in your hand. Each girl has one. Zhang Xiaoxiao analyzed the route. The three boys had already rushed to where they saw the silver box just now. Even if they rushed there now, they probably wouldn't be able to get anything good. The wisdom of picking up people's teeth. They simply decided to change course. They inserted it diagonally where the box was once within sight, but it was very risky to walk in this way. Because that would mean walking directly down the hillside, and there are dense forests here, so it is difficult to determine what dangers there are in the woods. The black bear we just saw is a product of the woods. Who knows what jackals, tigers, and leopards are waiting for them in the woods. But if you don't leave now and wait in place, you are waiting for death. You may be able to get a weapon if you find the box. 5 people set out on the road. Wu Yang had a dagger in his hand, so he volunteered. He walked in front and could use the dagger to clear the way. Of course, as a man, this is what he should do. There are 3 girls in the middle, and Zhang Xiaoxiao falls at the end. It's not who arranged it, it's not that she has the ability to end it, it's because there is nothing she can do now. If the 3 girls were left behind, it would be difficult to find anyone in such a large forest. As the person with some practical experience here, Zhang Xiaoxiao is probably the only one. No matter what, her man Song Moding once taught her a lot of common sense. At this time, she could only play her best role and rack her brains to bring out the things she had learned. After walking into the jungle, a group of people realized how difficult it was to travel on the hillside. There is no one path that can be followed. The jungles, shrubs, stones, and venomous snakes that emerge from the shrubs at any time, small animals, and even various insects, mosquitoes, and flies on the road are all threats that they must guard against. The three girls were still complaining at first, but after seeing a wolf in the distance howling into the sky on the cliff, no one is complaining anymore. Compared with life, these sufferings are nothing at all. Walked a long way, but they found nothing. The five of them were all a little depressed. Now they were sitting in an open jungle area. Hang in the shade under a tree and have something to eat. Everyone has not eaten for 2 days and 1 night, everyone is very hungry, and it seems that the sky is getting darker. If they don't find a safe place to stay before dark, they may be buried in this jungle tonight. Because they saw no less than a dozen white silver wolves on the road, and also saw many wild boars, black bears, and even leopards and tigers. Fortunately, they are far away from each other. When they see each other, they turn around and run away, but the other party does not see them. If they are really touched by the other party, it is estimated that even a brave person cannot win if they meet on a narrow road. Gnawing on the raw sweet potato in hand, Zhang Xiaoxiao was silent while Wu Yang finished eating what was in his hand. You all gather together and don't run around. I'm going to walk a little further. It's getting late. I have to find a cave or something. We have to find a safe place to stay. Wu Yang still looks like a man. Zhang Xiaoxiao nodded. She somewhat understood that Wu Yang's words were actually meant for her. Here the two of them realized that they had leadership qualities in this mission. Wu Yang is no longer here. She can only be responsible for protecting these girls if she stays. Of course, this does not mean how powerful Zhang Xiaoxiao is. It only serves as a backbone, and Wu Yang probably doesn't regard himself as a major combat force. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 893. Chapter 893 Lack of Energy. Wu Yang wiped his sweat. It had only been 2 days since he was a handsome man. Now he is as slovenly as a beggar. Looking back at the four people, I saw Zhang Xiaoxiao elegantly tying up her braids, with a neat face and not a single hair mess. Wu Yang suspected that the two of them were engaged in the same process. Others look as carefree as if they were going out and camping in the countryside, while I look like a wild dog being chased by a hunter in a panic. Xiaoxiao, we seem to be lost. Wu Yang was a little desperate. He didn't bring a compass or navigation, and his mobile phone had no signal. There are only vast mountains left here. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the terrain. Yes, he was lost. They have now strayed from their original path. Let's go, follow me, you can always go back to the original road. Zhang Xiaoxiao is not confident, but there is nothing he can do if he is not confident. School has become an elusive goal. They don't know about school, so at least they have to survive in the mountains. The Medicine God Association will never really want people to die. If you don't die, you can live. A journey ended with Bai Xiao's scream. A corpse, a female, was dressed in their common school uniforms. The whole body seemed to have been sucked dry of bone and blood in an instant, leaving only a layer of dry skin wrapping the bones. Being disfigured beyond recognition indicates that death was painful, but the expression on the face was not angry or frightening, but peaceful. This is a scene that is enough to scare people without having to imagine the horrific details. Zhang Xiaoxiao has seen too many horrific first aid scenes. But I really don't know what heavy objects can change people into, and I don't know what means can be used to achieve it. It means knowing that the murderer who committed the murder knew the victim because the attack was personal. Zhang Xiaoxiao was so calm that it was shocking. Are these our students? Zhang Xiaoxiao suspected that he had seen this outfit before. It does look familiar. Seems to be one of the students. Bai Xiao looked around and gave a positive answer after careful observation. Yes. I have seen this woman, her name is Guo Ruoki. She seems to be a marginal student ranked in the 50s. Everyone says she is very lucky. She followed those students just now. Why is she like this now? Bai Xiao was so frightened that his face turned pale, but he still answered in the affirmative. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked around. This man was killed by someone. It can be seen that the marks on his body are not the marks of wild beasts. The blood in the victim's body has been almost drained, and there is no muscle tissue at all. Even if it is man-made, it can be confirmed that the murderer has special possessions same as general ability. Most female homicide victims are killed by someone they know. Looking at the traces here, Guo Ruoki was obviously killed without violent resistance. It is certain that the murderer is very, very likely to be someone known to Guo Ruoki. Why are you so sure? Wu Yang resisted the nausea and looked at the bodies on the ground. Looking at them one more time made him want to vomit. Are you sure we all have to deal with it? We can't contact anyone from the Medicine God Association. No one can help us. Do you have a camera? Seeing Zhang Xiaoxiao speak so calmly, Wu Yang felt that the woman in front of him was too cold-blooded. Now I actually still care about the camera. Are you crazy? What can a camera do? You don't want to take a picture of her like this, do you? Wu Yang was a little angry that this woman was like this and she still wanted to be photographed. What bad behavior is this? Xiaoyu raised her hand weakly. Her sense of existence lies in the food. This is probably the first time she appears here. I have a camera. Take her picture, then we bury the body. Xiaoyu couldn't say anything to refute, so she took pictures. To the dead? Handing over the camera tremblingly. Zhang Xiaoxiao's hands didn't even tremble as he took 2 photos. Takes out a dagger. Don't ask where it came from. The question is about storage rings. Wu Yang's eyes widened. Xiaoxiao, do you have storage space? Oh, is that the ring you have? My grandpa gave me one, I thought it was of no use. Surrounding Zhang Xiaoxiao. His eyes were staring straight at Jiang's small fingers. Zhang Xiaoxiao glanced at him and said, find tools to dig a hole and accumulate some virtue. Wu Yang understood instantly. Bury her. The howling of wolves was heard in the distance. Wu Yang was startled. The other 3 girls also found branches and other tools to use as tools to dig. The 2 men held the nose, dragged the body down and buried it. A wooden sign was inserted with the words Guo Ruoki simply written on it. Zhang Xiaoxiao bowed silently to everyone. Good luck to you, there is only so much we can do for you. The 5 people started to move on. Bai Xiao leaned close to Zhang Xiaoxiao, and Xiaoyu did the same, but the tall Lu Yun didn't notice it yet. Zhang Xiaoxiao almost tripped over Bai Xiao. Bai Xiao, don't be like this, otherwise we won't be able to leave. It will be dark soon. Xiaoxiao, I'm scared Guo Ruoki died so miserably, I always feel uncomfortable in my heart. Xiaoyu also nodded, me too, I always feel like there is someone in the bushes. Now I am not so afraid of animals. It's so good. Who did this? How can a living, bouncing person look like this in the blink of an eye and not be scary? The little girl encountered a murder case for the first time when she went out. It would be strange not to be afraid. Zhang Xiaoxiao couldn't comfort her, she was still covered. Now that someone is dead, Zhang Xiaoxiao wonders if he has entered a more mysterious world again. It was agreed that a simple pill would be turned into a suspense TV series. That night was another sleepless night in a cave. It's Zhang Xiaoxiao's turn to keep vigil. Looking at the roaring bonfire, Zhang Xiaoxiao called each other number 9. Xiaju, what's going on, why did someone die today? Number 9 appears weakly. As if he was terminally ill. Sister, I need energy replenishment. I know that someone is targeting you students now. There is nothing else you can do, so you have to take care of yourself. I want to take a good rest. The voice became weaker and weaker, making Zhang Xiaoxiao nervous. Xiaoju, number 9, what's wrong with you? What energy do you need? How can I help you? Why is number 9 so weak? Is it so difficult to chase number 10 with yourself? Sister, it takes a lot of energy to tear apart time and space. It wasn't long before I took you into that time and space that I tore apart time and space again. This time and space lacked energy that could replenish my body, and that's why I was so weak. If you want to help me find Wuhwawa, I'm going to sleep. Sister, be careful, be careful. Be careful of what? Who should you be careful of? Zhang Xiaoxiao suddenly felt a strong force coming from behind. Rolling on the spot, it was a huge sense of crisis, forcing her to react instantly. Wu Yang. A black shadow brushed across Zhang Xiaoxiao's back. If Zhang Xiaoxiao's body strength hadn't been upgraded to SN strength in that world, the hammer would have hit Zhang Xiaoxiao on the back of his head. It is almost passable. Wu Yang jumped up in excitement. Hold the dagger and rush over. At the same time, the black shadow disappears instantly. The cold wind blew and everyone was covered in cold sweat. This night suddenly became very cold. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 894. Chapter 894 Abnormal Weather. The sky is getting brighter. The 5 of them stayed up all night, and it was impossible to fall asleep in the second half of the night. The 5 people set out on the road again, with the long road ahead, and everyone's mentality became serious this night. Now it's not just finding the school, but also having another goal. To survive, there is a pair of eyes staring at you in the dark all the time. Just thinking about it is scary. Hauntingly eerie. Zhang Xiaoxiao checked the traces and found that they were not the traces of a person. The footprints belonged to at least 3 people. It should be an adult man and 2 women. The depth of the footprints says so. This made Zhang Xiaoxiao even more confused. When Guo Ruoki's body was found yesterday, she had already realized that it was man-made. It is not any damage caused by wild animals or natural disasters. At first I thought this was an injury caused by fighting for food or seeking money. But it was obvious that the attack last night was premeditated. That moment is when people's defenses are weakest, in the middle of the night. Most people would have fallen asleep at that moment. If she hadn't been thinking about something and hadn't fallen asleep, and if her reaction hadn't been fast enough, the attack would have definitely killed her. He was fatal on the spot and couldn't even make a sound. When people found her dead the next day, they didn't even know who had done it. This method is no longer simply about making money. Now it is completely murder, and it is a premeditated murder, considering it from Zhang Xiaoxiao's perspective. These people were prepared to ambush there, and it was definitely not an impulsive idea. But things are not that simple. I don't know anyone here at all. In other words, there is little possibility of enmity. If she is not seeking revenge, then who is going to kill her? Or is it just because she is a student of Medicine God School? Could it be said that this hunting is not targeting her alone, but the entire Medicine God School students? In this case, these students will be in danger. The problem is that Zhang Xiaoxiao also has a little knowledge and doesn't know what it means. Seeing the red bricks and white tiles in the distance, the 5 people cheered for a moment. Of course, this distance is indeed far away. Against the background of the green trees on the mountainside on the opposite side, you can see a small village with red bricks and white tiles, which is very interesting, although it is vaguely visible. But it can be seen that this building is hidden in the mountains and forests. It should not be one building, but several houses around it, joined together. But seeing a house means there is someone there. Even Zhang Xiaoxiao was a little excited. He hadn't seen anyone for 3 days, and the people he saw were even more frightened. This feeling was even more painful than struggling in the apocalypse. At that time, life was not guaranteed, but at least he knew that the people around him could still entrust his comrades to support him. Those people really want to survive, and they also desperately want others to survive. Although everyone is facing the end of the world, everyone is precarious, but the belief in living is always there. The safety I could feel just because of not falling down was unparalleled. Even though it seems like a peaceful era now, it is full of crises. It is just that you can encounter such a big crisis when you come to the freshmen, and you don't know what the Medicine God Association is doing. At this moment, the Medicine God Association was already in a state of excitement, with so many students disappearing in an instant. The monitors they arranged on both sides of the road have long since lost sight of the students. They did not set up surveillance cameras in the deep woods, because who would have thought that the students who were in good condition would go deep into the woods? The only thing that can make people feel comforted is that every student actually has an invisible tracker on him. This tracker is in the number plate that every student gets, but now there are 5 trackers that are not moving, which means that these students should have had a life crisis, otherwise, the trackers they carry should not stop. Not forward. Other people's trackers are still moving, proving that these students are still alive. 5 people died. Even Gu Yang knew that they were in trouble. Send a rescue team quickly into the forest area to rescue these students. We cannot lose any more students. President Gu made a prompt decision. What happened this time was too sudden. No one expected that there would be no accidents in the freshman report every year, only this year. There is no place to reason now. Those parents didn't know where they heard the news, and now they have surrounded the entire Medicine God Association. After all, each of these children is the hope and inheritance of their family. If something goes wrong, not even their Medicine God Association can afford it. President, something happened. The clerk came out of breath and handed over a report and photos. Satellite cloud images show that the abnormal climate in the Kunlun Mountains is ahead of schedule. Gu Yang looked at the forecast on the picture and frowned. This time, the unusual weather in Kunlun Mountain came 3 months earlier. President, look. There is a catastrophic weather outbreak in the Kunlun Mountains every 300 years. Snowing. This is definitely not a joke. Gu Yang was almost speechless looking at the heavy snowfall and the whistling north wind outside the window. This kind of weather outbreak is almost difficult for humans to contend with. Of course, their ancestors have been fighting against the weather in Kunlun Mountains for thousands of years and have taken many precautionary measures, but this time it was 3 months earlier. It happened that the moment these freshmen entered the Kunlun Mountains, such bad weather broke out. Once this kind of weather continues, it will last for at least a year. Of course this is the pattern found in previous years, but this year it is so far ahead of schedule, and there may be some strange changes. The problem is that they don't even have time to rescue them now. The wind outside suddenly picked up strong winds of level 14 or 15. Now even if people go out, cars can be blown away. Rescue is easier said than done. Parents out there are going crazy. Their children can be sent to the Medicine God Association. Every family is at least a small family with some background. How could I not know that the abnormal weather in Kunlun Mountain that happens every 300 years began? Even they themselves were trapped in the building of the Medicine God Association. Sirens began to sound over the entire West City. This kind of sirens was different from the air raid sirens in ordinary cities. It is a forecast specifically for the unusually disastrous weather faced by their city. Everyone knows that at the first time like this, they have to enter the underground bunker that has been dug in their home. Each family there has a dedicated house like this, specifically for them to avoid disasters. The construction of this kind of house was not built by them, but by their ancestors. Each generation will modify this bunker according to the disaster, to prevent earthquakes, fire, and waterproof, and even special drinking water and food are prepared inside. It is something left specifically to protect future generations. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 895. Chapter 895. The storm is coming. Zhang Xiaoxiao and the others saw hope and went there happily. Being able to see a house means that it is the hope of life, being able to see living people. Everyone suddenly became energetic. Who would have known that they staggered from this mountain and finally reached the road at the bottom of the mountain, wanting to follow the path on the side of the mountain to the opposite mountain. Heavy snow fell across the sky, and a strong wind of level 15 suddenly blew. Everyone was wearing early autumn clothes, which could not protect them from the cold, especially the strong wind of level 15. The moment they saw the big tree in front of them being uprooted and rolled directly into the air, the 5 of them all realized that they had to find a place to hide quickly, otherwise, the 5 of them would not even be as big as that big tree. Can't even open my eyes. How to find a place to stay? Zhang Xiaoxiao covered his mouth and nose with his sleeves. Wu Yang, I remember you had a rope in your bag. Take it out and tie one around your waist. Make sure everyone doesn't get separated. I saw a cave not far ahead. Although it's at the foot of the mountain, and the terrain is not very good, but we have no choice but to go there to hide. Of course she can just see it and put on her own mask, so she can do it. Clairvoyance is not too much. But she couldn't see what was inside the cave. These eyes are not infrared. At first, the heavy snow just kept falling, and the temperature dropped like stones. Even though I knew the cave was right ahead, on the way to the cave, heavy snow fell from the sky, and the visibility was barely even 1 m. The wind was so strong that it scattered the snow and covered all the surrounding terrain. In the eyes of several people, the surrounding environment is almost exactly the same. There is nothing familiar that can guide them, and they don't even know if there are cliffs around them. They could only rely on Zhang Xiaoxiao's strong pull on the rope around his waist to give them a sense of direction and struggle forward in the howling wind and snow. Zhang Xiaoxiao wanted to die. Seeing it was one thing, but walking over was another. The cave in front of me clearly feels very close to me, but the problem is that I will miss it at any time. It didn't matter that others couldn't see it. She obviously knew the direction of the cave, but the current wind and snow made it impossible to maintain a straight distance. There is a 2-meter rope between each person, but the 2-meter rope has also become an insurmountable barrier between them. It was almost impossible to move forward straight. Every time they took a step forward, the strong wind would blow them back 2 steps. The wind almost blew Zhang Xiaoxiao so hard that he couldn't even stand up. The rope around his waist was hanging in the air, pulling the people behind him hard. Wu Yang from behind was yelling something at her, but she couldn't hear it at all. Thanks to her physical fitness having been changed by the entire upgrade, otherwise, even this strong wind would make people breathless. The wind almost cut off her breathing. When she struggled to climb into the cave, there was no sign of the people behind her. Zhang Xiaoxiao pulled the rope behind her and finally saw Wu Yang. Wu Yang fell down next to her, his lips turned blue and his eyes were closed tightly. Zhang Xiaoxiao ignored Wu Yang and continued to work hard to pull in the people behind him. The stone walls of the cave finally blocked part of the wind, and the 5 people fell to the ground at the same time. How are you all doing, are you okay? Zhang Xiaoxiao asked hoarsely, breathing heavily. After they entered the cave, they could feel that the wind was getting stronger. It's okay, no problem. Wu Yang waved his hand. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't hear Bai Xiao's voice. She didn't answer. Zhang Xiaoxiao suddenly knelt down beside her. Seeing her eyes closed and her lips turning purple, she grabbed her shoulders and yelled hard. Bai Xiao, wake up. Bai Xiao coughed, then let out a long moan, curled up and tightened, and then followed by a series of heart-wrenching coughs. Xiaoyu and Lu Yun both rushed over. The three of them held her in their arms and rubbed her limbs to increase the heat. Seeing her face completely drained of color, until she was finally able to make a sound. "I'm fine, I just can't breathe." The four people breathed a sigh of relief. Wu Yang and Zhang Xiaoxiao found a stone about the same size as the entrance of the cave and finally blocked the entrance. Although the blockage is not tight and the wind leaks, it is still better than the howling north wind blowing in. This heavy snow did not stop until the next day. The heavy snow in the sky caused the temperature to drop to -20 degrees. Although the wind seems not as strong as yesterday, it is still difficult to move. The weather is so cold that it can freeze someone to death, and obviously the situation may be worse now. 5 people are hiding in a cave. The problem is that they can't find firewood to start a fire at any time outside like they did before. There was no heating equipment in sight, so Zhang Xiaoxiao had already taken out all the warm clothes in his space and put them on for them. The problem is that the 4 of them are still shivering from the cold. Cold. I have never felt so cold before. This kind of cold almost takes away everyone's breath, and their limbs feel gradually numb. Zhang Xiaoxiao gritted his teeth. This was another lesson. There was no wood or coal that could be burned in his own space. He had to prepare everything in his space next time. This can't go on like this. We have to go out and find some trees to live in. Everyone has to eat something hot to keep warm. Otherwise, if it snows like this for a few days, we will all freeze to death here. Zhang Xiaoxiao and Wu Yang discussed in low voices. Bai Xiao has been having a fever and feeling groggy since that day, and her whole body is not feeling well. Xiaoyu and Lu Yun also fell into a semi-conscious state due to the low temperature. Zhang Xiaoxiao rubbed his hands, and white frost came out of his mouth. Wu Yang nodded, the sound of his teeth chattering was ridiculous even to himself. Okay. Freeze to death, gurgle, just, gurgle, freeze to death, give it a try, gurgle. The moment he pushed the stone away, the wild wind rushed towards the 2 people, almost knocking Wu Yang directly to the ground. Snowflakes came towards him, and for a long time, everything in front of Wu Yang was covered with white flowers. Zhang Xiaoxiao pushed the stone halfway up, and the shrill wind whistled in from the crack next to the stone. Zhang Xiaoxiao brushed his hair away and took a long breath. This is definitely a heavy snowstorm, a complete white storm. Nothing can be seen outside except the heavy snow, and the visibility is 0. Looking at Wu Yang again, Wu Yang's physical strength can never withstand such a strong wind. When you go out, the 2 of you may get completely lost and separated. Wu Yang is a burden now. Never mind. Zhang Xiaoxiao pushed the stone away, walked out, and then pushed the stone back up. It feels cold when I reach out. The wind and snow were like a hammer hitting me. If she wasn't wearing a mask, I probably can't see anything now. Zhang Xiaoxiao took out his cloak. The effect of wearing it is that I feel much better immediately despite the wind and snow, and my body is warm. Hey, it is indeed a high-tech product. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is Reborn with Space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 896. Chapter 896 found. Zhang Xiaoxiao came back carrying a bundle of firewood. And is so willful that the firewood is taller than her. Then he saw the wide open entrance of the cave, and the cold wind swept the snowflakes and fell to the ground. There was no one among the 4 people in the cave. The backpacks of the 4 people were scattered on the ground, and there were still blood stains that had solidified. The firewood on Zhang Xiaoxiao's shoulder fell to the ground, and there were many footprints scattered in the cave. Many people appeared here at that time. If she had not left, she would not have been picked up by others. However, What is a little reassuring is that from the blood stains at the scene, it seems that the injury is not serious, and it should be that one person was injured. Others are simply taken away. It took a total of 1 hour from leaving to coming back. Chased out quickly, the wind and snow had already buried all traces. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked intently, but still couldn't see a single clue, even though her eyes could see far away. Zhang Xiaoxiao made a fire and ate a meal of noodles. His stomach was full and his body was warm. But my heart felt cold. There are no teammates, and now I am in a dilemma alone. Find someone? Easier said than done. It was windy and snowy, there was no goal, and she was not a fairy. Where to find it? Zhang Xiaoxiao is frustrated. The 4 of them are children with little experience, and now they are almost in a tiger's den. No words all night. The next day. The magical wind has stopped and the snow is still falling. Zhang Xiaoxiao couldn't sit still. If this delay continued, it would be unknown whether the 4 people would live or die. A few days were short, but in fact there was still a lot of affection between them. It is impossible for Zhang Xiaoxiao to let it go. She can't do it. Tube. How to manage it? Don't even know where the person is. Zhang Xiaoxiao set out. Snow was not a problem, he always wanted to see if there were any traces. Starting from the cave and walking along a gentle steep for a while, I saw a rag hanging on a tree branch. Blowing in the wind. Zhang Xiaoxiao pulled it off. Is the clothes on Xiaoyu's body? It seems that the route is right, Xiaoyu is still using her brain. Don't think you are fat, but you are not lacking in brains at all. Zhang Xiaoxiao kept walking along this road in a hurry, and saw another piece of cloth 50 meters out. This time we changed the direction and headed towards the mountain. Zhang Xiaoxiao stared. Isn't this the direction of the mountain houses they saw yesterday? Zhang Xiaoxiao walked along the road and saw the cloth again after walking 30 meters. It seems that the direction is correct. A house appeared in front of me in the mist. It's not just a village. As you walk down, a village appears in front of you. Stop, who are you, what are you doing? A sharp shout. Zhang Xiaoxiao saw a man suddenly appear in the snowdrift, with the muzzle of his gun pointed at him. Gun. It's not a parallel world. Aren't the laws here different? They don't allow firearms there. Hands up, cautious attitude. I'm lost and want to find a place to get out of the snow. The voice is clear and delicate, with the charm of a little girl. The man holding the gun was dressed in white clothes and white trousers. If Zhang Xiaoxiao's eyesight were not so good, he would not be able to see clearly. She almost blended into the ice and snow, and people didn't tremble at all, staring at her suspiciously. Lost? What are you, a girl, doing in the mountains in such a heavy wind and snow? This is the closest mountain range to Kunlun Mountain, and most people won't come here. What do you do? Obviously, Zhang Xiaoxiao's words will not be easily believed. I am a student at the School of Pharmacy and Theology. I got lost in my original report, otherwise, I could just call the school. Simple student tone, eager to get help. Surprise flashed in the man's eyes. Although his expression became serious, if Zhang Xiaoxiao hadn't been looking at him, he probably wouldn't have been able to tell. But Zhang Xiaoxiao believed that the 4 of them must be here. Then come with me, you students are really running around. Why are you running around? Let's go. The man walked behind Zhang Xiaoxiao, and Zhang Xiaoxiao walked forward silently. Soon we came to the house in front. 5th brother, tell the village chief that there is a student from the School of Pharmacy and Theology here, and he is probably the same as those students. Another one. The voice was actually surprised and happy. Brother, my classmates are here too, can I be with them? Zhang Xiaoxiao asked in surprise, just like a student girl. The man inside had a beard and a sinister face. He glanced at Zhang Xiaoxiao and said, I'll take you to the back. You can see for yourself if he's your classmate. Zhang Xiaoxiao saw several other people in the back room, but Wu Yang and the four of them were not there. However, several people greeted Zhang Xiaoxiao with surprise when they saw him. Hao Rugjiu, you're here, it's great that we are thanks to these big brothers, otherwise we would have frozen to death in the mountains. The two men exchanged glances and glanced at Zhang Xiaoxiao. Are you Hao Rugjiu? I am Hao Rugjiu, thank you all for saving my classmates, thank you, thank you. The man hesitated and said, are you the Hao Rugjiu who refines the super elixir? Zhang Xiaoxiao nodded, brother. I am Hao Rugjiu. The super grade elixir was also made by mistake. It's not worth mentioning. It's not worth mentioning. Smiling shyly, he looked exactly like a child who had not left school. Okay, go in, I'll take you to see the village chief in a moment. The man closed the door. Zhang Xiaoxiao listened. The man outside the door didn't make any move, and even the chain door was unlocked. However, she had seen that these huts were located in the central part of the village on her way here, which meant that if the people in the houses wanted to go out, they would probably not be able to escape the eyes of others. Several people grabbed Zhang Xiaoxiao. Hao Rugjiu, why are you here? You don't know that we encountered a lot of problems along the way. 2 classmates are dead, and I don't know if there are any monsters here. Let's sleep. That night I had to be fine. When I woke up the next morning, that classmate died next to me. Terrible. The death was particularly tragic, as if someone had directly drained the blood. Zhang Xiaoxiao asked for a long time, and found that 2 people in this group had died, and they were all girls. The death condition was almost exactly the same as the death condition of Guo Ruoqi that she found. Her whole body seemed to have been drained of blood. But the strange thing was that that night, this classmate slept next to her, and the 2 of them slept side by side. If there was such a big noise at night, she had no idea, and there were other people who didn't hear any movement at all. Zhang Xiaoxiao asked about their situation again. These 5 students have only been in this village for a day. In other words, Zhang Xiaoxiao and Zhang Xiaoxiao are actually on the same foot. He was also discovered by these people on the road and brought back directly. They are very warm in the house here, and people come directly to bring them meals. They have eaten hot meals and feel that the people here are very kind. Apart from not wanting to talk to them very much, he treats them very well and takes good care of them at other times. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the heavy snow outside. After staring hard, she finally saw Wu Yang and the 4 of them locked in the basement in a room 200 meters away. Wu Yang was injured on his head and was now wrapped in gauze, lying on a bed in a daze. On the other 2 beds, 3 girls were sitting there shivering. Zhang Xiaoxiao breathed a sigh of relief. Just find someone. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 897. Chapter 897 Yevyang. Hao Rugjiu, follow me to see the village chief. There was a knock on the door outside. Zhang Xiaoxiao opened her eyes. She had been closing her eyes to rest, and was going to find out what was going on at night. The result is coming. Zhang Xiaoxiao wants to meet the village chief. Why did you bring them here and lock them here? Zhang Xiaoxiao followed the man out and walked 50 meters to a 3-story house with red bricks and white tiles. In the white snow, the house looked even more like a house in a fairy tale. Walking in, there was a rush of heat in the living room. Welcome, Hao Rugjiu. I didn't expect that the latest generation of genius pharmacists from the Medicine God Association would be with us. Come on, please sit down. A tall, fat old lady rushed up to Zhang Xiaoxiao and gave her a hug without even giving her a chance to speak. The suffocating hug allowed Zhang Xiaoxiao to see clearly the people in the living room. The 3 boys looked at themselves with twinkling eyes. The atmosphere is not quite right. I don't know what's wrong, it just feels wrong. Old lady, are you the village chief? Usually, when she hears the name village chief, she thinks of men. She really didn't expect that this village actually has an old lady in her 70s or 80s as the village chief. She is a female village chief, and she is also a highly respected female village chief. The old lady nodded. My surname is Gu. If we really talk about it, Gu Yang, the president of your Medicine God Association, and I are actually relatives. Even based on seniority, he has to call me aunt, but now, I guess, Gu Yang will not admit that I am his aunt. The old lady speaks her mind. Village Chief Gu, actually I have only met President Gu once, and I am not very familiar with the others. I want to thank you very much this time. If I hadn't met you, we might have froze to death in this windy and snowy mountain. I just want to know where our Medicine God Association school is and why we haven't found it even after searching here. Zhang Xiaoxiao asked more directly. Actually, this is not a school of the Medicine God Association, this is just a branch of the Medicine God Association. Every year, students come here for half-year training. Of course, the so-called training is to train your ability to survive in the wild. Because each of you will eventually participate in the trial of entering the Kunlun Mountains, but I didn't expect that they would actually arrange for you, the freshmen, to register here. Obviously, they did not expect that this time they would encounter a rare weather abnormality that only occurs in a century. The abnormal weather here in the Kunlun Mountains caused abnormal weather in the surrounding areas. If nothing is wrong, according to the practice of previous years, this weather anomaly will last for more than a year. Don't think that this weather abnormality is just heavy snow, the cold is just the beginning. There are likely to be volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, wind and snow, and even all kinds of weather that you can't even imagine. For example, a tornado or even a tsunami. There is only weather here that you can't imagine, and there is no weather that you can't see, so this is just the beginning. If you want to go out for the time being, you will never be able to do it. Mrsku immediately clarified Zhang Xiaoxiao's doubts. After what he said, Zhang Xiaoxiao immediately believed that the other person was telling the truth, because there was no need to lie to them. The fact was that they had indeed entered here when they were new students. This is a notification from the Medicine God Association, and no one else can pretend to be it. Of course, the other point is that everyone can see this abnormal weather with their own eyes. Even if you lie, you can't deceive others. It seems that they are surprisingly lucky. Or do you say that you are particularly lucky? Village Chief Gu, wouldn't we have to bother you for a long time? According to what you said, you live in this mountain. What should we do if this happens? Old Mrsku looked at Zhang Xiaoxiao with a smile. Her kind eyes were so kind that it was hard to feel disgusted. It's not obvious that he is a bad person, but Zhang Xiaoxiao knew that taking Wu Yang and the four of them and locking them in the basement was definitely not a good intention. We are in this mountain. Not only in this mountain, but every household in the West City actually maintains an underground shelter that has existed for hundreds or even thousands of years. This shelter is specifically designed to prevent us from meeting every 300 years. Encountered a weather abnormality. It's just that this time it was a few months ahead of schedule. The Medicine God Association probably didn't expect it, and we have it here too. So if we really encounter a flash flood or volcanic eruption, tornadoes, or the like, we can just move underground. Underground shelters and basements. Zhang Xiaoxiao wondered whether the statement was true. Could it be that I saw it wrong? She can see Wu Yang and the others. But I couldn't hear what they were saying. Indeed, Wu Yang and the others were not tied up, and it seemed that the conditions in the basement were good. I didn't expect you, Village Chief Gu, to be so well prepared. Zhang Xiaoxiao laughed dryly, feeling like he didn't know what to say. Village Chief Gu looked at Zhang Xiaoxiao with burning eyes. I heard that Mr. Hao is an extraordinary person. Can Mr. Hao Rugji refine super-grade elixirs? Zhang Xiaoxiao smiled slightly. It was by mistake. I refined the super-grade beauty pill by mistake. Seniors of this kind of pill should know that it was handed down by our ancestors of the Howe family. I can't handle other pills, I don't have the ability. The other party was obviously very curious about her ability to refine elixirs, and she never left her words about elixir refining. Even invited Zhang Xiaoxiao to visit their alchemy room. Zhang Xiaoxiao refused. The alchemy room is the inheritance of every family. There are many secrets inside, which are usually not revealed to outsiders. Let's see for ourselves what's going on. If someone detained her or kidnapped her on the grounds that she had stolen someone else's secret recipe, she wouldn't even have an excuse to resist. We don't accept routines. Village Chief Gu did not embarrass Zhang Xiaoxiao, and Zhang Xiaoxiao was sent back. In the next few days, Zhang Xiaoxiao saw what the real abnormal weather was. Heavy snow was flying on this side, and the sun was shining brightly on the other side of the mountain. It's depressing. That night, at midnight, when everyone was asleep, Zhang Xiaoxiao got up. Wu Yang opened his eyes, and he heard a rustling sound. It was different from the sound of delivering food to them. Those people would not be so sneaky, and they had the final say when it came to their own territory. Still need to be sneaky? Sitting up, I realized that the sound came from beside my bed. Wu Yang walked over. Gilong, a piece of the wall fell down, then several pieces of the wall fell down, and then a hole appeared in front of Wu Yang. Wu Yang swallowed. Who is so weird? I always thought that there was a cement floor under my bed, but this is it? Wu Yang, Wu Yang. The low call cheered Wu Yang up. Hao Rugjia's voice. Hurry over. Xiao Xiao, why are you here? Leave quickly. These people are not good people. They have a grudge against my grandfather. These people are the sinners of the family who were exiled to Kunlun Mountain. But we must have bad intentions in arresting us. We are not threatening my grandfather. That is, what conditions must be met. Protect yourself and go as far as possible. Go quickly and leave us alone. We are valuable now, and they will definitely not do anything to us. Zhang Xiaoxiao was speechless. Wu Yang was a fool. There is obviously a loophole in this statement. It makes sense that Wu Yang was arrested, but what about Bai Xiao and Xiaoyu Lu Yun? They are not a big family, so there is no use keeping them. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 898. Chapter 898 Surprise. Grandma, what are you talking about? You're up so late at night, what are you talking about? A voice came, and the big iron door in the basement was kicked and made a loud bang. The moment the door was opened, Wu Yang leaned the pillow against the wall, leaning on it and coughing calmly. Bai Xiaozheng was giving him a pat on the back. Wu Yang coughed so violently that he seemed to be coughing out his lungs. Brother, he is seriously injured, can you find some medicine for him? Bai Xiao held Wu Yang's arm tightly, his own fingers trembling. He asked with a calm face. What kind of medicine do you want? I tell you, what kind of medicine do you need for a dead person who won't live long? Just be patient and don't make any more noise. Be careful, I will feed you to a mythical beast right now. The guard cursed and went out. With a bang, the door was closed and locked outside. Bai Xiao breathed a sigh of relief, and Wu Yang patted her arm. Don't be afraid, Xiao Xiao is here. This sentence is an encouragement. In their hearts, smallness is their backbone. Bai Xiao looked outside the door. Xiaoyu Manman walked over and sat down next to the door. He leaned against the door and caused a loud noise. If you don't finish what you're doing, if you keep messing around in the middle of the night, I'll feed you all to the wolves. Let's go up and sleep, we'll close the door so that we can't hear you at all, we'll let them mess around and not get out. If they want to kick in the door, let them kick in. The voices of the two men became farther and farther away, and then there was a loud noise, which could be vaguely felt. Beyond this gate, it is still far from the exit. It seems that people are not worried at all that they can leave here. Xiaoyu forced a smile and wiped the tears from her face. Just now, his little heart was so frightened that it almost jumped out of his heart. Quick, quick, quick. Take your pillow away, I want to talk to Xiao Xiao. Bai Xiao opened Wu Yang's door, and Wu Yang smiled. The atmosphere in the room actually became cheerful at 1 o'clock, and the heavy haze that had been weighing on their hearts for the past few days suddenly dispersed. Putting away the pillow, Bai Xiao lay down at the entrance of the cave. Xiao Xiao, Xiao Xiao, where are you? I'm here, please get out of the way and stay away from this wall. I'll make a hole here and take you out. Zhang Xiao Xiao could clearly hear the voices inside the cave, and she could see the two guards walking away from her eyes. It turned out that they were locked up in this basement, and it was not a simple basement. This basement has 2 rows of long corridors built underground, with compartments on both sides, a bit like cells, but also like small rooms. At the end was a huge door, and the guards walked in. Of course she cannot see what is happening behind the door, because her line of sight is also limited and cannot penetrate thousands of meters. She has been staying here for the past 2 days and has put in a lot of effort. At least she has already observed the way out of the village. Although she rarely leaves the house, she can walk around the village as she pleases. The problem is who has nothing to do in the snowy weather, walking around outside in this kind of weather. In order not to attract attention, Zhang Xiao Xiao huddled in the house, but within the range of his eyesight, he roughly found a way out of the village according to the route of the villagers. Of course, more importantly, one of the 5 students living in the same house with her was taken away. She originally wanted to keep staring at this girl, but after the girl walked within 50 meters, she stopped looking at her. Not to the other party. All we can know is that the girl was taken to the hut not far from the village chief. The girl never came back. When she asked the guard said that the girl thought the conditions here were not good and wanted to live there because she could eat wild beasts shot down from the mountains. The tone of his speech was quite perfunctory, and Zhang Xiao Xiao did not ask in-depth questions. Anyway, the other 4 people had not cared about this matter. Perhaps everyone felt that the conditions were quite difficult, because they could only eat 1 meal a day, and each of them was given only 1 steamed bun at each meal, leaving not much left over. The water we drink is made by bringing snow into the house from outside, melting it in a kettle and then boiling it for drinking. There are also people who heard that you can actually eat meat in the house over there, and they are a little eager to try it, and want to volunteer to go there. However, the guard said that the girl could help the village chief with some things over there, so she was treated like this, but they couldn't, so they still stayed here temporarily. See if there is such an opportunity in the future. Zhang Xiao Xiao definitely doesn't believe this nonsense. Everything in the village is weird, and Zhang Xiao Xiao doesn't want to stay here for a long time. If you can get out of here, try to get out of here. Although the mountains are blocked by heavy snow outside and the conditions are difficult, if you find a cave in the mountains, you can survive no matter what. At least you will have space and enough food to eat. It is absolutely impossible to starve them to death, but if he continues to stay here, Zhang Xiao Xiao is afraid that he will not be able to save the 4 people, and will be left alone in the end. The 4 companions must be taken away. They are too young to be left to die here like this. Zhang Xiao Xiao has already determined in his heart that the secrets in this village involve the lives of these students. Why didn't the roommates take them away? Of course it's not that Zhang Xiao Xiao doesn't want to take them away. Zhang Xiao Xiao tried to talk to them, otherwise they would leave here and go outside. There is something weird everywhere in the village. What if something is wrong? As soon as her words came out, someone laughed at her, saying that she was in a state of happiness and did not know how to be blessed. It's snowing so hard outside, and they won't freeze to death if they go out. At least there is a steamed bun to eat here. If they leave here, it's possible that they are still preparing to die outside. Other students also shook their heads one after another to persuade Zhang Xiao Xiao not to think nonsense. At least there is a warm stove here. Who knows what will happen after he goes out. Moreover, the snow was so heavy that the mountain road was difficult to travel. They didn't understand the terrain, and no one came to rescue them. I heard from the village chief that this situation may last for a year. If it snows all year round, people will really freeze to death. No one is willing to take risks outside, and they prefer to enjoy their current comfortable life. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't say anything more afterwards, because what he said could easily arouse people's disgust, and of course, because he discovered that the number of guards at their door had increased by 2 in the past 2 days. This proves that their conversation was monitored and listened to, and what they said should have aroused people's vigilance. Furthermore, it may be difficult to even leave on your own. It can only be said to be a personal choice. Since others are unwilling to leave, life or death is up to them. Zhang Xiaoxiao can only do what he can do, and he can't care about anything else. But it is true that they will not give up on Wu Yang. At least she can guarantee that Wu Yang and the others will definitely follow her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lucky Bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 899. Chapter 899 Rescue. Xiao Yu, Bai Xiao, and the others all stepped aside, covered with quilts. Zhang Xiaoxiao almost reached in, like a mechanical arm, and violently broke down the wall. The 4 people looked at each other in shock. They really didn't know that Zhang Xiaoxiao had such an ability. Oh my god, this is as strong as a robot. Although they don't know what the robot looks like, the skill of picking up walls is not something that ordinary people can do. This wall doesn't look very strong, but Wu Yang tried to break off a piece just now. The wall is made of bricks on the inside and cement on the outside, so it's strong. At any rate, he didn't disturb anyone. Zhang Xiaoxiao arrived, put his hand in and dug out a big human-shaped hole with a loud click. Zhang Xiaoxiao got in and patted the ashes on his head. When the 5 of them met, Bai Xiao almost threw herself into Zhang Xiaoxiao's arms, hugging Zhang Xiaoxiao and crying loudly. Zhang Xiaoxiao patted the child. This girl was not much older than her own child. She would inevitably get emotional when encountering such a thing, but it was not a problem to continue crying like this. They don't have much time, and there is no such time for them to reminisce here. Stop crying. You only have so little clothes on you, and they don't give you any clothes to keep out the cold. No wonder these people were shivering and opened the hole by themselves, letting the cold air from outside come in directly. They were actually wearing simple clothes. The down jackets that I had brought for them were now gone. It seemed that the other party had confiscated them all. The only thing they wore to keep out the cold was a quilt. Of course, this quilt was called a quilt, but in fact it was only a thin layer. Wu Yang's face was frighteningly white, and his teeth were chattering. These people say I'm going to die soon anyway, there's no need to keep those cotton clothes and it's a waste. Now he finally told the truth. If he didn't tell the truth, they would really die. At that time, he was worried that Zhang Xiaoxiao couldn't save them and risk Zhang Xiaoxiao's life, so he told a white lie, thinking to deceive Zhang Xiaoxiao away. But who knew Zhang Xiaoxiao was so capable that he could tear down the wall? Those who can tear down walls are better than them. If you don't say it now, you would be sorry for your friend. You have to let your friend know the truth of the matter. Okay, don't talk now. Put on all these clothes, scarves, and hats. I also have all your backpacks. Let's go first and then go out. We can't stay in this village. Let's go into the mountain as soon as possible while it's still dark. The farther away from here, the safer it will be. As Zhang Xiaoxiao spoke, he took out all the cotton padded clothes, and military coats he had hidden in his space. This is also thanks to the fact that I put a batch of these things here in the first place. Otherwise, I would not be able to find them if I wanted to use them now. Everyone is fully armed. What on earth is going on here, Chief Gu? Zhang Xiaoxiao is surprised. How can he not be curious? She was so curious. After you left that day, not long after that, someone suddenly pushed the stone hard. I thought it was you coming back, so I helped him open the stone. Who knew that more than a dozen people rushed in at once. After knocking me out, he brought us all here. When I woke up, I realized that we were locked in the basement. Later on, the village chief Gu saw me and asked about our identities. People clearly knew who I was from the beginning and knew that I was the grandson of President Wu. Village chief Gu didn't hide anything at all and told us directly. They are the Gu clan members who were originally exiled here by Gu Yang. Almost no people who were exiled to the Kunlun Mountains survived. In fact, we are in the Kunlun Mountains now. I didn't know that after 7 rounds and 8 rounds, we actually entered the Kunlun Mountains. I heard from my ancestors that people who enter the Kunlun Mountains cannot get out at all. Anyway, no one has left Kunlun Mountains so far, except of course my grandfather and the others, but my grandfather said that they entered a specifically designated secret realm in Kunlun Mountain. Only those who survive in this place can come out. No other living person has been seen coming out of Kunlun Mountain so far. The village chief Gu told me clearly that they want to use us to sacrifice their ancestors. They have found a way to leave, and it certainly took our blood to make their way out. Wu Yang had already put on his thick cotton coat and zipped it up. He also put on his scarf and hat, put on gloves on his hands, and Zhang Xiaoxiao also stuffed a shovel into his hand. There was no way, they couldn't. These people were unarmed. If you go out and bump into people in the village, you will probably start a fight. It doesn't matter if you don't even have the ability to resist. Zhang Xiaoxiao has no other weapons. The only things that can be found in this space are hoes, shovels, sickles, etc. Sickles are of course for girls to hold, but shovels can only be given to Wu Yang. As for the hoe, Wu Yang probably can't even use it. Wu Yang was swinging around the house with a shovel in his hand, and he was quite aggressive. Of course, only he knew it. Hungry for the past few days, my hands and feet have become a little weak. Wu Yang, you should save some strength. When you leave the village later, if you meet someone and you haven't eaten for a few days, you have used up all your strength for a while. Could it be that you are waiting for Xiaoxiao to be protected by yourself? Us. Zhang Xiaoxiao was speechless. There was no cooked food in the space. He ate almost all the ready-made steamed buns. He had nothing to do, and he couldn't store a whole house of steamed buns in the space. These things have been eaten up long ago, and the rest are rice, noodles, or lettuce. I can only say that I picked 2 peaches and handed them to them. Let's make do with it, 1 peach per person, one's own peach, which is a good thing and can be used to save lives. It's a bit wasteful to use it as food for them now. Zhang Xiaoxiao was not stingy even if he felt distressed. At this time, people's survival has become a problem. Why do they have to think about so many things? It's a good thing that my peaches are not those mutant peaches. If those mutant peaches were, I wouldn't even dare to give them to them even as food. At least now that they have eaten this peach, they will definitely be strong and healthy. What a great job! Besides, this peach has mutated a lot now, and now each peach is almost bigger than his own palm. Such a big peach is absolutely filling. Of course, the 5 people's mouths were already drooling the moment they saw the peach. Without saying a word, I ate everything into my stomach. After I finished eating, I touched my belly. Now I feel warm and energetic all over my body. The 5 people walked out of the cave, with Zhang Xiaoxiao leading the way. They walked straight out of the village, stepping on the snow without saying a word. End of this chapter. The lucky bag is reborn with space. Author, Floating World. Chapter 900. Chapter 900 Exposed. The snow is so heavy that although the roads in the village have been cleared of snow, you can still feel the snow covering your calves when walking on it. Although the current wind is not the level 15 wind that was seen some time ago, the strong wind after the snow is blowing, and it is bitingly cold. There was only dim light in the house at the entrance of the village, and the other houses were pitch black. Suddenly I remembered the sound of a dog barking. The whole village seemed to be boiling. At that moment, all the lights in the dark room were lit. Wu Yang was so frightened that he almost fell down. Zhang Xiaoxiao glanced at Wu Yang and told them in a deep voice, "Don't be afraid, keep walking and don't look back. They can't catch up with us in such heavy snow." Zhang Xiaoxiao thought that it would be okay for him to break up, but if it didn't work, he would use violence to fight violence. She is a doctor, but now her mind is actually fighting violence with violence. Haha. The environment really affects people. I am a person who likes peace, is good at good, and saves the wounded. Now I think about how big the killing. The last days. The sequelae of killing too many monsters. Zhang Xiaoxiao really felt that there was an evil thought surging in his chest, and it seemed like a good idea to beat these people up with violence. But I really didn't do that. They ran towards the mountains quickly. The sound of noisy gongs and drums came from behind. Someone ran away, someone ran away. Chase, don't be afraid of them running away, you can't go far in this snowy day. The sound of dogs barking kept coming. The 5 people were all a little panicked, because the barking of the dog proved that these people had let the dog out. No matter how fast they walked, they could still keep distance if they were chased by people, but it was simply delusional to compete with dogs. Moreover, several girls are afraid of dogs. Who is not afraid of dogs? Even Wu Yang is afraid of dogs. As expected, when they turned onto the path up the mountain, they could hardly walk and almost stood still. The first road was not easy to walk, the snow was too heavy, and the snow in the village was still being cleared by some people, but the roads leading into the mountains and forests were not used by anyone, and no one had ever cleared them. With one step, they were almost drowned up to their waists. Every step seemed like they were struggling in the sea. At the current speed, they could not go more than a few meters. But the dog came after me. More than a dozen dogs surrounded them majestically. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at Bai Baixiao and the other 3 girls. They were weak, pitiful, and trembling. Wu Yang couldn't even pull his legs out. I have thought of everything except what happened after the heavy snowfall. This is really God's will. He helped Wu Yang and Bai Xiao out, and the 5 of them stood side by side. Village Chief Gu was helped out by someone, and a group of people surrounded them in a menacing manner. Hao Rugjiu, what are you doing? Our village is kind to you. If we don't protect you in this bad weather with heavy wind and snow, you will freeze to death outside without food or water. There are many ferocious beasts in this mountain. To tell you the truth, this is the Kunlun Mountains, and people cannot get out here. Even if you are a genius, you will never get out of this place. We are all victims of the Medicine God Association. Why don't we support each other and live a good life here? Village Chief Gu, even if you are just talking about the fantasy, everyone has his own ambitions and cannot force it. Even if we freeze to death or starve to death, we are willing to survive here based on our own abilities. If you can survive in the Kunlun Mountains, we same thing. But you are right about one thing. Since we can't get out and have the same goal, why don't we live in peace? I guess you locked my friend in the basement for some good purpose? I don't want to be raised here as a sacrificial gift. Zhang Xiaoxiao directly tore off the mask of warmth. Why bother pretending to each other hypocritically? Looking at this grand gesture, they are no longer prepared to hide it. Even if they follow Village Chief Gu back to the village, can they still live as peacefully as before? Village Chief Gu sighed, his attitude always gentle and generous. Child, you have misunderstood me. In fact, The so-called sacrifice or not is just about them and has nothing to do with you. You have special talents in elixirs, and you are capable enough to live on your own here. I have enmity with the Wu family, I have enmity with their family, and I have enmity with the Medicine God Association. When our Gu family abandoned us, we were exiled to the Kunlun Mountains. I can't live without this place for the rest of my life. The people in the entire village around me are actually my descendants. Of course, in addition to the Gu family members, there are also people from other families who were exiled to the Kunlun Mountains. In the end, we can only connect as one, support each other, and live here. Otherwise, no one knows how he died in this mountain. You have never seen the evil outside, and of course you don't know our hatred for people outside. The ferocious beasts in this mountain are much more powerful than humans. If we don't provide sacrifices to them every year, they will destroy our village. We have no choice but to survive. Your life is life, and so is our life. Tell me, shouldn't we do this in order to survive? Victor Chief Gu's words left Zhang Xiaoxiao speechless. What is the proposition of survival? Is a difficult puzzle to solve. Anyone who wants to live for himself may do things that would kill others but not himself. This is understandable. But at least it wasn't Zhang Xiaoxiao's choice. She would rather die in the mountains with her companions than be used as a sacrificial object and sacrificed to a certain beast as food. Furthermore, no beast has ever been heard of that can really achieve this kind of balance with humans. Relying on humans sacrificing their own lives as sacrifices to avoid harming other humans? That is just a legend. Zhang Xiaoxiao has never seen a truly intelligent beast. Zhang Xiaoxiao frowned. That's not right? Have seen it myself. In the apocalyptic world, aren't the Black-Horned Dragon King and the Black-Horned Dragon both ferocious beasts with intelligence? Is it possible that the Kunlun Mountains are connected to a different world in my past? Grandma, stop talking nonsense with them. Just arrest her. This woman is so bold. I will send the first one I see to see the medicine god, so as not to lead other people into harm's way. A fierce man shouted, and his tone sounded like he was the grandson of village chief Gu. Others also echoed. If there were not these people in front of us, then it would be their descendants who would be sacrificed to the sacred beasts this year. Every year, the entire clan must select one person to give to the god of medicine to be used as a sacrifice to heaven. This will ensure that they can live here in peace for a year. Their people are decreasing day by day because the birth rate is too low, but now that there is a foreign population, they are naturally unwilling to consume their own children and grandchildren. Every one of them is so ferocious that they want to arrest people directly. End of this chapter.